What's up, everybody? It's Jackson Sanchez with the Shafter Coaches Show. We're doing something a little different this week. No article, no audio podcast. We're going to do this kind of a visual thing with the whiteboard. If you ever see Coach John Gruden, shout out Coach Gruden. He does this every week. I figure we do a mini version of it. I'm not as smart as Coach Gruden, so it may not be as good, but we'll get it going. So this is the tail of the tape, right? This is the biggest Shafter Wasco game since the 80s. So we really got to go down first. We're going to go through leading stat leaders for both teams. We're going to go into both offenses, both defenses. And at the end, I'll give my opinion on who I think is going to win the game. So first, let's get to the Wasco Tigers. Now, you take a look at this whiteboard right here. Hammy Lopez for the Tigers is averaging 130 yards rushing per game, about 130, 131. We could give him 132. I think it's 131.8 or something like that. He is the heart of this team. He runs nasty, man. He runs like a Wasco running back should be. He plays with the level of nastiness that not a lot of people do, and he's not afraid to run you over, and the kid is an athletic stud. As for their quarterback, the transfer from Texas, the cousin of legendary Wasco running back Isaiah Sharp, Javen Hernandez. He's got 642 yards passing, which, may not seem for like a lot of passing yards for, compared to other quarterbacks in this section. But for a Wasco Tiger, that's unheard of. Usually their quarterbacks are usually in the 100 to 200 yards passing. They usually never throw the ball. That's different this year. We'll get to that later. And then he also has 633 yards on the ground. He's more of a finesse runner. He doesn't really look for contact, but he's fast and he's shifty. And then on the defensive side of the ball, we got Daniel Halsey. His younger brother is actually on this team as well. We'll talk about him a little later. But Daniel's a senior, and he's the middle backer on this team, one of the backers. And he's averaging about 6 tackles per game. And when I talked to Coach Wadle, he said he's the heart of this defense. So these three guys, if Wasco wants a chance in this game, they're going to have to show up, and they're going to have to show up big. What do I mean by that? Lopez, the key for Lopez, you got to give him the ball, and you got to give him the ball early. This kid will feed off of 25 carries a game, and he'll love it. I was talking to Coach Wadle the other day, and, versus Delano, he was begging for the ball at the goal line. They were up by like 50. As far as Hernandez goes, he's looking for the big play. What I mean by that is this. He's going to get his touches. He'll probably get 10 to 13 touches during the game. And, he'll take advantage of them. But those 4 to 5 passes, that's what he's looking to do. In this game, he might go 10 to 13 passes. Who knows? He's their big play guy. He is going to either take a shot down the field with his arm, or he's going to make something happen with his legs. He's the big play dude. As for Halsey, he's going to have a task on Friday night. The hardest task probably of the season and maybe of his career. This Generals offense is good. They're fast, and their scheme is hard to beat. So how do you beat that? He's got to play physical. He's got to be able to tackle Marion Sloan one-on-one, which we haven't seen anyone be able to do in the SSL. If he could do that, if he could just make a couple tackles one-on-one versus Marion Sloan, this Wasco team will be set up for success. So now, let's transition to the Shafter Generals. All right, now for the Shafter Generals. The Generals, probably the most balanced team, probably in Kern County, maybe in the Valley. Ezekiel Osborne, 1,999 passing yards on the season. So we know Shafter is not stat packing because we couldn't give him the 1 yard just to say even 2,000. And then Marion Sloan, 138 yards per game. Nick Rossetti, 7 tackles per game. Now let's start with Rossetti on the defensive side of the ball. This is a big game for the senior. Why do I say that? Well, Wasco's going to run the ball all night long, and you need a nasty physical presence in the middle of your defense to stop this run game, and Rossetti is just that. These 7 tackles per game, guys are getting ice baths feeling these hits he's delivering in these games. And Ezekiel Osborne, let's go to him real quick. I think he's averaging about 220-ish yards per game through the air. But heck, every game Shafter's played, it's been a running clock. He hasn't really gotten an opportunity to play all 4 quarters yet with that much time given. So I think in this Wasco game, we could see a little bit more than that. But the kid's smart. There's RPOs that we'll talk about a little bit later on every single play, which gives him the option to let it loose at any given time. And then Marion Sloan, kid's probably the best athlete, in my opinion, in Kern County and probably in the Central Valley, one of them. 138 yards per game, missed 2 games on the season, and I think is still the leading SSL rusher. He's got breakaway speed, and a thing that doesn't get talked about enough, this guy runs hard and he runs nasty and he runs mean, which is something that we haven't seen from him until this year, and he's really welcomed himself into that running back role. Sloan's the key here. If Sloan could get going early, Wasco doesn't have a chance, I don't think, because if you let him get into a rhythm, when he's popping off those 15, 20-yard carries off the rip, Wasco won't be able to keep in this game. And then for Ezekiel, he's just got to take his chances. I think they're going to play a little bit cover man. They're going to give options for these RPOs. And if these receivers can get open and they can hit slants over the middle, it's a game changer. He's going to have to be ready for those. As for Rossetti, we already talked about him. He's just going to have to play hard-nosed football, read the guards, which we'll talk about in a little bit as well. That's the tail of the tape for both teams. Now, let's get into the Shafter Generals offense. All right, the Generals offense. I'm sure Prucci has a better name for it. I just like calling it the spread. That's the easiest way for a fan to understand it and an easier way to kind of see what they do here. So the Generals like to spread you out. A spread defense will spread the defense out all over the field. Now, the key here is Prucci's motion. So what do I mean by that? A lot of times if you're going to the games, right, you'll see a slot receiver. A slot receiver means this. You'll have a one receiver way outside, and the slot receiver will be between the middle of the offensive tackle and that far out receiver. A lot of times this is the H-back. For the Generals, a lot of times it seems to be Garcia. So he'll motion across the field. Prucci loves to use motions. What does that mean? He motions this guy across the field a lot of times to see the coverages. If they go with him, it's usually man. If the guy runs with him, it's man. If the guy that's covering Garcia while he's motioning, or any H-back while he's motioning, and he drops back into coverage and someone from the opposite side of the field come down and guard him, it's zone. So it kind of gives the coach and the players, especially the quarterback, an idea of what coverage they're playing pre-snap, which is huge in high school football. So this is what they'll do right here. So let's run a little motion, and you often see a motion like this. Simple across the field motion. Now he'll hike the ball pretty much when he gets right here, or maybe a little bit closer, right? So they don't run into each other. But a lot of times it could be a fake motion, or he won't even fake it. So let's say they just go across his face here, then Marion Sloan will either run it right here. But what does this give the option now? Right. So they'll motion across the field. Marion Sloan could either give it right there, Osborne can even give it to him, and this guy right here will run a little slant. And that's what we call an RPO action. So what does RPO mean? Run, pass, option. And I think the Generals are going to do this a lot against the Tigers, and I think it's going to help them. And if they can hit a couple of these, they're probably going to win the game, because it's almost impossible to defend. Because with a quarterback like Osborne, you have a kid that's so smart, he'll throw it on the opposite side of the field, which is something the Generals have never done before. He's got an option to throw it to a receiver every single play of the game. I don't think people realize that, and how much stress that has on the DBs and the secondary of a defense, because you got to cover guys every single play. You know how tiring that is? You're running down on the field every single play. But anyways, let's take a look at this motion again. So again, when you see people motion across the field for Shafter, that is to expose what covers the defense is in. And a lot of times it's just to make guys run, right? It gets guys tired, things like that. And you could do a lot of things out of motion. He could give it to that motion guy for a little outside run play. He could fake it twice. He could fake it to that jet sweep. He could fake it to Marion Sloan, and they could run a little action on the backside with these guys right here. So a lot of times, if you see that, say they go motion, they're trying to hit a deep threat over the field. A lot of times this X guy will just run a post. Maybe you'll have a little shallow cross over the middle, and this Y back right here will run a little climb route, or he could even run a little out route to take that corner away. Either or, I know it's kind of confusing. That was kind of off the top of my head. Some of that may be wrong. I think realistically, this guy will probably do an out route in case they're playing zone to hold that corner. This guy will come shallow cross, but this is the play they're trying to hit right here with this X running that post over the middle of the field, which a lot of time the Generals do. Now let's get into this Generals run game a little bit. And I'll try to, talk and draw at the same time, but I'm not very good at multitasking, so stay with me. The Generals are a run-first team. Don't get it twisted. Prucci may seem like he's got all these gadgets, and he does, but he loves to run the football. So let's dial this up real quick. This is just inside zone. This is the Generals' bread and butter, and they'll run it all night long if they can versus the Tigers come Friday night. So let's space these guys out. Let's put the receivers out here real quick. And let's not even worry about the motion, right? Let's not even say there's no motion on this play. Inside zone is this. It's pretty simple. So why do they call it inside zone? These guys right here, the offensive line, they are zone blocking. It's not man blocking. So that's a little bit different than you see usually in high school football. So this is what they'll do right here. So inside zone, here, I'll just write it like this because my body's all over the place. Okay, so I'll write up inside zone real quick. A lot of the times, inside zone has a lot to do with the center and the guards in this offense. They're really important. So we'll, here, draw this real quick. So, say it's to the right, right? Now, I know it's a lot of squiggly lines and it's hard to see. But inside zones, specifically, usually, between the center and the guard. That's why they call it inside zone. Outside zone would evolve more, between the guard and the tackle because it's more outside. So now, Marion Sloan will take the ball up the middle like this. The center and this guard, whichever way, it's really irreplaceable. It decides which side you run the ball, right? They're going to either double team if someone's over the center usually, or someone's over the guard, or someone's in this, one technique. They will double team that. Now, the key is to this. In zone blocking, you're not blocking a man, you're blocking a zone, right? So it allows guys to do this. They'll double team at first, and one of them, it's usually the guard, I believe, will come off and block this Mike backer. If this guard can get to the second level and get on this Mike backer and these receivers will block, this play's hard to stop. Because if you give Marion Sloan a crease, he could break it this way. If this guy flows and they turn him inside, he'll cut it back this way. Or heck, I've even seen him a couple times. If they get good push on the outside, block these guys off, hell, he'll hit it right up there and cut it back. So look at that. That's a simple zone run play. And I'm sure I didn't write it up as well as the coaches would have. They're a lot smarter than I am. But that's just kind of to give you a little bit of an idea. Now, again, I'm not an offensive line guy. Coach Mano is, that he would be a better off person to ask. But this is a little bit of zone running scheme for what I remember and what I've watched on tape a little bit of what they like to do. So there's really 3 options for Sloan to break at any given time. So you do that run pass option with the inside zone play. Those are just 2 plays, but really inside those 2 plays, you could do about 10 things out of them, which is what a lot of good coaches say. If you could have something that looks simple or make something look the same, but it's multiple, you could do so many different things out of it. It's kind of hard to explain. It works. It's a simple concept, but these simple concepts have, 10 different things you could run out of them, which could mess up a defense. And I think the Generals will do that a lot. Now let's get to a lot different offense, the Wasco Tigers. All right, now for the Wasco Tigers. It's a little different, right? It's not the double wing, but it's still a wing. It's a single wing. And I actually think this is a lot better offense than the double wing is. You could do so much more out of it. I mean, for one, you're in the gun, so it gives you kind of more room to work with your quarterback. You could do a lot of shovel passes, a lot of counters, and it just allows you to throw the ball a little bit more, which I like. But let's get into the bread and butter right here. This formation right here. Why do I have Armijo, number 55? He plays guard. They like to run the ball behind Armijo. He's a big kid. He's pretty athletic for his size. He can run. They also like to use Hammy and him together. So if Hammy's getting the ball one way, usually this is his pooler, number 55. So what does that look like? Let me draw it up for you real quick. It's super simple. A lot of times it's just man blocking up front. And the key here is the guards, like Armijo. For the defense, they'll pull those guards. The wing will kind of block down a lot of times, and the fullback will just look to clean up, to either kick out or clean up on the outside. And I mean, it's just straight outside power, like here. It looks pretty confusing right now, but again, this wingback will crack down. This fullback will either kick out, or he might even try to get to the outside shoulder. Hammy's going to take this ball, and he's going to follow the pulling guard, number 55, Armijo, up this hole. And again, it kind of just works for the Tigers. They got the team to do it, which I think helps a lot. And they got the back and Hammy Lopez to do it, which helps a whole lot as well. But now let's talk about this. So what this can create, and I'll erase some of this, that could cause some issues for that Generals team if they don't read the pulling guard. Because that's the key to all this, right? If you follow the guard, it usually takes you to the play. Easier said than done, though. As the game gets going, you get tired. It could be starting to get hard for these backers to read their keys. But if they could do it, they'll be set up for success all night long versus the Tigers. But if they don't, it could be a shootout like it was versus Kennedy, and the Tigers could get on them early. So here we go like this. So if we want to watch counter, right? If we want to see the counter. I'll draw one more here. Sorry, 1, 2, 3. All right, now we're good. So right here, this wingback a lot of times is number 5, Halsey. He's a sophomore. We talked about his older brother earlier, Daniel. This is his brother, number 5. He's the key to look out for right here, because what they'll do, they could either fake this run, they could use Hammy as a lead blocker, they'll pull this guard this time, they'll throw a little shovel pass to him, or they'll give the ball to Hammy and he'll reverse it to this guy coming over the middle. They'll use this wingback a lot. And a lot of times what else they'll do with him is they'll take him, when they look to pass, he'll either run a corner route or he'll run a little corner post. And that's a lot of times what they look to hit, especially with Hernandez back there as their quarterback. So a lot of it is misdirection. It's a lot like the double wing, right? What they used to do. Try to get the defense to think that you're going one way and then go the opposite. But this is not the formation. I'm going off a whim here. I don't think Wasco comes out in this formation. I think they come out with something a little different. So let's take a look at that. All right, it's a lot of the same offense, but I think the Tigers are going to come out in this. They've shown it a lot recently in games. They showed it against Chavez a lot. I call it double single wing. I didn't really know what to call it, to be honest with you. Here's a better look at it. It's pretty much the same formation, but instead of having that wing back, they'll move him to the slot, and they have Carranza, number 1. That's their deep threat. They'll move him to that outside receiver, and a lot of times either, Hammy could go to the slot, and he'll stay at the running back, and then they'll have this fullback in that could go on, a little short route, a little shallow route, or sometimes, man, he may even stay in and block. It just depends on what they want to do with him that night. But the key here is this. I think they think the Generals can't defend the pass. I think they've seen it on film, and they think, you know what, we're going to look to throw the ball more this game. So they're going to try to spread them out in this look. And this still, they might like it because this still gives them option if they wanted to pull some guards, but it gives man blocking over here. They could use the fullback as the lead blocker, and they could still run that power if they wanted to. And they could also fake it and do a lot more stuff to the field over here. So what does that mean? A lot of times their concepts with throwing the ball are super simple, and I think they will open up with this play right off the bat. I think they might run a little fake to Hammy or number 5, whoever they want out there, receiver or at running back. And I think it will be simple, man. I think it will just be maybe a little out route here, and I think they'll send Carranza deep, and I think Hernandez will throw it no matter if he's covered or not. I think they're going to take a chance early, and they're going to say, hey, we're here to throw the ball tonight. We can throw the ball, and I think they're looking to prove that. So I could see something like that. A lot of times, too, Carranza ran a pretty good route versus Chavez where he came off the ball, ran a little out route, it looked like, faked it, and then went post. And that was a really good play for them as well. So look for the Tigers to come out in this formation and look for them to throw the ball. Now, let's get into my keys of the game and who I think is going to win this thing. All right, before we get to that, I did forget to mention the defensive side of the ball. The reason for that is both these teams haven't really played an offense like this. Wasco has played Chavez and stuff, and Wasco runs what we like to call a 3-4 base. So it's a base 3-4, but they really play it like a 4-2. Now, what does that mean? Let's draw it out right here. So it's a 3-4 base, like how I drew it on the very top right there, but it really goes down to a 4-2. So this means they're really a 3-down lineman team. They have 3 down linemen at all times. But what they'll do late in the play, they'll roll up their outside backers onto the field, onto the line, and it really looks like a 4-2, which means 4 down linemen and 2 linebackers in the box. And they'll usually run, cover 1 out of this. They'll run 2 men under out of this. And that means they're running a lot of man coverage. So, they could look to man Shafter up on the outside. I think it's a dangerous game to play with Shafter, especially with the RPO system, but I see why they would do it. If they could cover Shafter, which I think Coach Wadle and his team thinks they can, they'll blitz the house. And they'll run this little 3-4, but really it's a 4-2. They'll run this 4-2, possibly a 4-1 box, and they'll spread everyone out on the outside and look to cover these guys man. And they'll always bring 1. If they're in this 4-2, I look to them at least bring 1 of those backers at all times to try to make Osborne a little uncomfortable. That's just a little bit on the defense. The reason I don't want to touch on it too much is because really I think both teams might open up with something different. As for Shafter, they never played a single wing, but they'll play it probably a lot like Kennedy. I'm guessing they'll have 4 down linemen, possibly 5 if they want to do that, but I think it'll be 4 down linemen. And I think they'll walk Marion Sloan up as a backer probably. I think he'll play more in the box to play, the run a little bit more. And I'm really interested. I really hope we get Marion Sloan to cover Hammy Lopez when he goes out on routes like that and to kind of spy him. I think that's a good matchup. So if you remember versus Kennedy, simple, 4 down linemen. And the key here for the 4 down linemen is they have to play gap sound. What I mean by that, they have to read the guards. So let's put these keys out. Read the guards. Let's see. Read the guards. Play assignment football. Hopefully I could spell assignment. And lastly, take away the deep pass. What does take away the deep pass mean? I mean, Wasco's going to throw the ball. They're going to maybe do it, 5 to 10 times this game. But if you take that away early, they won't look to do it. My handwriting is atrocious. I don't even know if you guys can read that, but I'll read it out again. Read the guards. We talked about Wasco guards pulling, right? Nick Rossetti, Marion Sloan if he walks up as a backer, and Jaden on that Generals defense. They got to read the guards. And those down linemen have to crash. They have to play backside. If you play this backside and you hustle your butt off, it helps so much against this offense. And secondly, let's see, play assignment football. What that means, everyone in this versus the Wasco offense, if you're playing them on defense, you just have, each guy has an assignment. And if you do your job, it's actually not a hard offense to stop. But if one person doesn't, it's a big play. And that's what Wasco counts on. They wait for you to make the mistake. And take away the deep pass. They're going to try to throw the deep pass early. If you get an interception or if you prove that you could cover that, that's going to make Wasco a little uneasy. So those are the keys on defense. Those are what to expect on defense. Now the keys to the game. For Shafter, it's the RPO. It's the run pass option. We talked about it earlier. If they could get that going early on, and if Wasco can't stop this run pass option with their man defense, it's a long night. And I mean, Sloan could have about 100 yards and Osborne could have another 100 passing if they do not stop this RPO offense. As for the Tigers, simple. Control the clock. Keep this Shafter offense off the field and do what you've been doing all season long. Beat them up with your offensive run game. If they could do that, if you get Hammy Lopez going for 5 yards a pop, 10 yards a pop, all of a sudden he's popping off 20 yards a pop, they will win this game. And lastly, both teams, you got to create turnovers. In this game, with this magnitude, whoever has the most turnovers will most likely win the game. Whether that's, getting interceptions. For Shafter, that may be, let's get pressure on Hernandez. Let's make him throw the ball early, and let's make him make a mistake and make him uneasy, which he hasn't felt all season long. As for Wasco, it may be, hey, let's get pressure in Osborne's face, dirty up these windows, and hope he throws a bad ball, and we get some breaks. But to me, I don't see Hammy Lopez fumbling the ball. I don't see Marion Sloan fumbling the ball. With that being said, who do I think wins this game? I'm taking the Generals right now. If you asked me today, I would take the Generals. And let me think about this a little bit more. I think the Generals win this game by 2 or 3 scores. I think it's a 42-21 game, 42-28 game. The reason for that really is the run pass option. There is a run pass option for this Generals team every single play. And I don't know if that Wasco defense is ready for it. It could be hard to defend. And I just think after watching that Kennedy game, Shafter's defense really played pretty well despite giving up 35 points. They gave up, that last touchdown late in the game, and all of a sudden that looks like a 14-point dominant performance versus Kennedy. And again, Marion Sloan's the best back in this league. Hammy Lopez is a stud, though, but Marion Sloan is just different. And I think he's the difference maker in this game. And if push comes to shove, I think you hand the ball off to him in the fourth quarter and just let your star be a star. So I'm taking the Generals right now to win this game 42-23. I'll throw in a 23 in there, kind of make it interesting. That's my prediction right now. I think it's close to start, but I think towards the end of the game, the Generals pull away. We'll see how I feel about it Friday the more I think about it. But again, thanks for joining me for this recap. again, this was a lot harder to do with the time I have. I wish I had more time to dive in the film and understand more offenses. And, you know, I wish I could draw the defense out for you guys. But maybe one day when I'll get a little bit more time to do this, it will be a lot better. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I can't wait to see you guys Friday night.